The Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team defeated Yale Saturday at Ingles Rink. Have they finally turned the corner? Donovan Smith is out for the rest of the season. How badly will this hurt the men's basketball team's postseason chances? And are the women's basketball team's shooting woes over? Dylan Fearon and Maury Hirsch-Gordon are here to break it down. This is Bobcat Breakdown. Good evening and welcome to Bobcat Breakdown. I'm Brian Schwartz, and at the desk with me today is Dylan Fearon and Maury Hirsch-Gordon. Guys, are you ready to go?
It's been a while since I've been on the desk with Maury. I'm ready.
It's always go time.
It is go time. All right, let's get it started. The Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team defeated Yale Saturday night 5-2. Chase Prisky and Nick Germain each chipped in with a pair of goals. Guys, are you surprised that they beat Yale? Dylan,
I'm surprised. I'm a little surprised they won, especially 5-2, and you're talking about 2 goals from Chase Prisky, a defenseman, and 2 goals from Nick Germain, a freshman. But Yale was hot coming in. Yale was at home. They'd only had 1 loss since December, and the only other team to do that in the entire country was Penn State, who was 10th in the country. So Yale's coming in hot. They're at home, and Quinnipiac's had some issues with goaltending. They played Chris Truhl, who's been inconsistent this year. Andrew Shortridge was a freshman. They didn't like to go with him. And so there's some issues surrounding the team. You know, depth's been an issue. Who's going to be the guy? So I think I was a little surprised that Yale won 5-2. Quinnipiac won 5-2. I thought Yale was going to get this one on Saturday night.
Brian, I can't say that I was all that surprised. Yes, Brown and Yale both give Quinnipiac a ton, of tough matchups. But Quinnipiac hasn't lost to Yale since the 2013 national championship game, and it hasn't lost to Brown in almost 3 years. And coming off an absolutely humiliating loss against Arizona State at home the prior Saturday, their season was on the line. Players like the Clifton twins, players like, Chris Truhl, who's a junior, who's been around college hockey, Chase Prisky, all of these key pieces to Quinnipiac, they weren't going to lose this weekend. You go into Brown, you win 1-0. Brown's always a tough team, really strong, bodies Quinnipiac a lot. Like I said, haven't lost to Brown in almost 3 years. And then you go into Yale, and Yale was in the penalty box for 18 minutes, and Quinnipiac is one of the best teams in the country. They're 5th right now, in power play percentage. In scoring goals, they're almost at 22%. They're tops in the ECAC. So when you're consistently one of the best teams in college hockey, when you have the power play and a team literally hands you a gift, you're going to get the win pretty easy.
Yeah, but first of all, you're acting like Chris Truhl is such a huge factor. I mean, he's been so inconsistent all year long. He'll have 3 goals in less than a minute to Harvard back in December. I mean, how can you say that he was a key factor and that you weren't surprised that Quinnipiac won with him in net?
Anytime there's good goalie competition, anytime there's competition amongst players, Dylan, you know this, you're an athlete. Anytime there's good competition, it breeds success. And both players raise their level, of play up when Chris Truhl doesn't know that his job, is for sure. If a puck or two gets by him in net, he doesn't know if Andrew Shortridge is going to come out of the bench and play there.
Right, so either goalies, it's a toss-up. You have no idea if they were.
So they're both going to play well. That's why they won this weekend.
And Truhl had 18 saves in that game. So obviously it wasn't the best game for him, but it was an improvement on what he's been doing. So with this win, would you say that the Bobcats' issues have been solved?
No, not at all. I don't think you can solve issues in just one weekend. It's got to be consistency. You have to do it over a certain length of time, longer than just one weekend. The goaltending is obviously an issue. We've just addressed that with Chris Truhl and Andrew Shortridge. You got a freshman in Andrew Shortridge, and Chris Truhl's been inconsistent. Just mentioned, gave up 3 goals against Harvard in less than a minute. Extremely inconsistent all season long. And he's good. Give him credit. He's good. No disrespect. But he has been inconsistent, and that's a fact. Second of all, who's going to be the guy? You look at the ECAC top point leaders, top 20. No one from Quinnipiac. Chase Prisky leads the team in points and tied for 21st in the conference. So who's going to be the guy? Depth has been an issue. Where have the other guys been, and when are they going to show up? I mean, you look at the top point getters. Chase Prisky leads the team as a defenseman with 22 points. There's been no forward to really step up recently and been like, I'm the guy, I'm here. There's no Sam Annis. Who is going to be the guy to step up?
Well, I think much like the Quinnipiac women's basketball team, Dylan, when they won 23 straight games a couple of years ago, not one player was on first team All-MAC. How can that be? How can the first team ever in conference history go undefeated and not have a player on first team All-MAC?
Much
like this Quinnipiac men's team.
They won the conference. This team is not going to win the conference.
We're not even close to the playoffs yet. We still have a couple weekends to play. No, I don't think that this team What was the question again?
Have the issues have their issues been solved?
I don't think the issues have been solved, but I think it's a big step in the right direction. I think you have freshmen playing great in the bright lights. Nick Germain, 2 goals, on the road against your rival. Brogan Rafferty's been the best freshman defender on this team. Outside of Connor Clifton and Chase Prisky, he will take over the reins once those 2 leave. And the goalies are playing well, like I said. It's a big confidence boost. It's a big 4 points on the road. You now come home to Clarkson, and you have a shot to get a top 3 spot
There's
in the
no
ECAC.
doubt it was a great weekend, but I don't think you can say the issues are solved in just one weekend's worth of work. I think it's got to be over an extended period of time, and we'll see what happens this weekend.
Well, we'll see about them, and we'll see about the women's ice hockey team, who won 2 games over the weekend, including their first ever televised game Saturday against Yale. Quinnipiac defeated Brown Friday night 9-0 and Yale 4-1 on Saturday. So guys, senior Megan Turner led the Bobcats with 3 goals in the win against Brown. Maury, you talked about who's stepping up for the men's ice hockey team. Can she be the one to lead the women's ice hockey team back to the ECAC championship?
Can she be the sole person that leads this team back to the ECAC championship?
Is she going to be the leader that leads this team?
I definitely do not think so. I mean, you have TT Cianfrano, you have Melissa Samaskevich, Emma Woods, 3 of the best players in the conference. Megan Turner, is one of those key pieces. I think she's definitely a part of the mix. I think Dylan would agree with me on that one, but I definitely don't think she's going to be the sole person. I mean, Brown, who cares? Brown Brown's garbage. Brown's terrible. Brown's at the bottom of the conference. You beat a team 9-0. Who really cares? Great. I could have went and scored 4 goals that night. I definitely think though that she's gonna be important. She's got 19 points on the season, so she's definitely had a breakout year. But I still think this team could finish 6th in the ECAC, a team that won't have a home series, where it's going to have to travel if they even make the semifinals, and a team who probably won't even make the national tournament. So I definitely think Megan Turner's got a lot on her shoulders. If you think she can be the sole person, I think she's a piece.
I don't think she is the sole person. I think she is the dark horse. Okay. Now you just mentioned a lot of names. TT Cianfrano, Melissa Samaskevich.
She's on the first line. How is she the dark horse when she starts?
She's dark because she's overshadowed. She's overshadowed by those 3 players. She's 4th in the team in points. She's completely overshadowed. Everyone goes TT Cianfrano, Melissa Samaskevich, Emma Woods. No one thinks about Megan Turner and talks about Megan Turner, but I guarantee you she is going to be a big piece for the rest of the season. She is definitely a dark horse. Someone that is always overshadowed and overlooked, but is very, very good at what they do. I think you got to look at Megan Turner and say you are the dark horse for sure. Definitely not the sole person and reason that they're going to lead them to the championship game or something like that, but it's definitely a dark horse, I'd say, and one of the key pieces.
All right, well, it's time to take a quick break. Coming up, the Quinnipiac men's basketball team is without Donovan Smith for the rest of the season. How will that impact the Bobcats? Dylan and Maury will tell you. Don't touch that dial.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
And welcome into Studio 125.
So what? So what?
If you score 40 points in a basketball game, we all know you play Quinnipiac intramurals. We all know you love to shoot the rock.
Well, if you think that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, what I'm about to say, I guess, is going to be pretty ridiculous in your book. But I'm going to say, yes, there is a controversy. I'm
Line, getting ready to punch the ball as it lands right in front of another Monmouth player.
Coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up on hashtag that. We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news. All this and more.
Coming up on the Q30 Newscast.
Hello, Quinnipiac hockey fans, and welcome to the Neutral Zone.
Definitely St. Lawrence, and I think you're going to see the test coming up real soon.
They might be having a bit of an adjustment issue without that CBS line, but don't count them out.
At High Point Solutions Arena in Game 2 of Quinnipiac vs. Northeastern Series.
The Quinnipiac men's basketball team has won 2 in a row, beating Niagara 89-81 and Fairfield 73-71 on a game winner by by MAC Rookie of the Week Peter Kiss without senior forward Donovan Smith. So guys, Smith going down the rest of the year, how does this injury affect the team down the stretch run?
You know, so far, I mean, it hasn't affected them, Brian. I mean, they're 2-0, like you just said. Niagara, Fairfield, 2 big wins. This team was 5-4, dropped to 5-7. And, you know, got to give them credit. Very inexperienced team in terms of Division I talent. Very inexperienced team in terms of amount of time they've played together. So you have to give them credit where credit's due. Traditionally, Tom Moore and his team, you know, to the Donovan point, they're traditionally a three-out, two-in team. 2 bigs, 3 guards on the perimeter. Now he's playing more of a 4-around-1. The way Donovan Smith hurts them is for 2 big reasons in my eyes. I see one, it makes the guards really have to rebound the ball. But, you know, it seems like they understand that because the last 2 games, Peter Kiss, 13 boards against Niagara, 12 against Fairfield. Mikey Dixon also picking up the slack, 5 boards against Niagara and 8 against Fairfield. If you think that's, you know, a big drop-off from Kiss, well, Dixon, only 3 times in the previous 19 games before facing the Purple Eagles did he have 5 rebounds or more, so he's picking up the slack on the rebounding edge. You know, they out-rebounded Fairfield by double digits, which was a bright spot after getting absolutely shellacked on the boards by Siena. And the other thing is it puts more pressure on the guards in terms of defense. The shot blocker is out of the lane now. Guards like Justin Robinson, Marquise Wright, Stevie Jordan, Tyler Nelson, the list goes on. They can drive right by Peter Kiss, Mikey Dixon, and now those 2 and the other guards and the other core of Quinnipiac coming off the bench, they don't have that help. They don't have Donovan Smith coming out of nowhere and blocking 3, 4, 5 shots a game. They're already playing 30-plus minutes. So to rebound more and, you know, to put more pressure on the guards, you know, playing straight up without having that help side in Smith is a big loss.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. First of all, the 2 games they played were Niagara and Fairfield. You know, not the 2 best rebounding teams in the MAC. Okay, so I don't think it affected them too much because they were fortunate enough to play 2 teams in the MAC that are not that good at rebounding. Look, Donovan Smith's 6'9", 245 pounds. He's going to affect the game strictly because of his size. He can protect the rim, he can rebound. Not only can he shoot a free throw jumper, but he can also be behind the arc and shoot a 3 every once in a while, right? So he can shoot, he can be inside in the lane, protect the rim, block shots, rebound, etc. What's going to affect this Quinnipiac team is the fact that Donovan Smith, in my eyes, always seemed to play well in the minutes that he was given. He'd always get 18 minutes, 20 minutes, and he'd always contribute 11 points, 12 boards, couple of blocks. He always made the most of his minutes off the bench, and it really seems that no one else on Quinnipiac's bench can do the same, except for Daniel Harris against Fairfield, I'll give him that. But aside from that, it seems like Reggie Oliver have a good game every 3 games, Daniel Harris every 4 or 5 games, Andrew Robinson every couple of games. Who's going to be that guy off the bench that can get it done night in and night out? And that was the guy that Donovan Smith was. You look at his game against Iona. Every time there was a big game, he always seemed to step up. Quinnipiac comes off 2 losses. They play Iona at home. What does he do? 15 points, 11 rebounds, 5 blocks, 7 for 11 from the field. Then they go to Buffalo trip, right? Playing at Niagara, at Canisius. 2 really tough places to play. And he delivers 11.5 points per game, 11 rebounds per game in just 22 minutes. He makes the most of his minutes. He does everything that he can in the minutes that he is given, which is a lot more than you can say about some other players on Quinnipiac. That's how it's going to affect them because the bench is thinner now without him on the court.
Outside of Siena and Monmouth, the dynamic of the league has changed, gentlemen. 4-round-1 is what teams are playing now. You're only going to have 1 big man in there. You know, when Quinnipiac wants to go small, they can have a Jaquan Jones and an Alan Shiga in there that give you 2 6'7", close to 6'8" pieces down low if Tom Moore still chooses to go with the 3-out and 2-in style. With the 4-out and only 1-in, Chase Daniels has picked up the slack. Right now, they're not being bothered because, Dylan, like you said, yes, they played Niagara and Fairfield, but the last part of their schedule was easy, so we knew that going in.
Okay, but who cares? It's all about the MAC tournament, though. When you have to play a Siena or an Iona or a Canisius or a Monmouth, you're going to get killed. And those are the teams that Tom Moore's looking at to beat in the MAC tournament late in the tournament. He's not thinking about Marist and Manhattan. Now he has to because Donovan Smith is out.
I think with more players like Andrew Robinson, a big guard who can defend on the wing, Danny Harris locked up Tyler Nelson last night and gave him a tough 5-minute stretch.
Are we going to act like Andrew Robinson can produce? Are we really going to talk about that right now?
He can defend. He has not shown up. He can defend on that part of the court, and he can grab rebounds.
What did he do against Fairfield?
Same with Phil Winston. Phil Winston's one of the team's top defenders. Defense wins your championships. As long as Daniels and Peter Kiss and Mikey Dixon get their points, and everyone else kind of has a solid game outside of
Donovan
that.
Smith wasn't good at defense?
Say that again?
You said defense wins championships. We're going to act like Donovan Smith didn't play great defense while he was on the court?
He did play great defense.
And now he's gone, so that's going to affect them.
And that's why
let's not act like Andrew Robinson's so good at defense.
But everyone gives solid minutes on this team, Dylan.
how
Look
can
at
you- how can
Jaquan
you
Jones
say it's not
after
gonna
not
affect them?
playing. He had 4 points and 6
How can you
rebounds
say
in
it's
a
not gonna-
solid game against
What do you mean?
Fairfield.
How can you say it's not
So
going
if
to
a guard
Jones
gets,
wasn't that good. Jaquan Jones wasn't that good.
Tom Moore said that Jaquan Jones would have had a great stat line against Niagara had he hit a couple free
Yes,
throws.
had he actually done something well, he would have had a great game. Is that
He
what
was
you're
1
saying?
for 5
Had
from the
he
line,
made
a
free
couple
throws.
more. He didn't turn the ball over that much, and he had a great
His ball wasn't in his
he
hands
had
to
a
turn the
great
ball
layup
over.
in transition when 2 Fairfield Stags came at his back shoulder. He didn't see them. He hung in midair and laid it off the glass.
say that a
4
man that-
points and 6 rebounds is solid right
say
now,
that a man's
while
gonna
Abdoulaye Bundu and Donovan Smith are on the bench.
Abdoulaye Boone is going to be back in a few days, I'm sure. But to act like a man that will give you 10 and 8 and maybe a couple blocks every single night in just 22, 25 minutes a game is not going to affect his team because he is the best guy off the bench and he is one of the only few guys in the MAC that's 6'9", 245 off the bench. Isn't going to affect their team? That's crazy.
I said
that's
he's not
crazy.
I said he's going to affect them in 2 big ways: in rebounding and in guard defensive play on the perimeter.
All right, well, considering all of that, can the Bobcats get a first-round bye in the MAC tournament? They're 6 in the MAC right now. The top 5 get a bye, sitting at 7-7.
Yeah,
So-
I think they can get a bye. I think the best case scenario for Quinnipiac right now is to finish 4-2 in their last 6 games. You look at the last 6 games; it's all teams either below them or St. Peter's, which is above them. But they're at home against St. Peter's, and they played St. Peter's really well on the road. Only lost by 4 and only allowed 58 points. Start with the defense. Only had 58 points. So you look at the rest of the schedule. They play Fairfield, who they just beat, who's below them. They play Ryder twice, who's below them. They play Manhattan, who's below them. Marist, who's below them, and then St. Peter's, who I just said is above them. But they played them really well. So we'll see. I think the best case scenario is 4-2, which brings them to 11-9 in MAC play. You look at the last couple of years in the MAC. 2015, 5th place. The 5th place team was 12-8 in MAC play to get that last bye. 2014, 11-9, and 2013, 11-9. So I think if Quinnipiac can get up to 11-9, get that 11th win, they can get that 5th bye. I think you look at the standings. I mean, Monmouth, Iona, St. Peter's are going to be guaranteed byes. And it's that 4th and 5th spot with Siena, who's been playing really well, who just won at Iona, Canisius at that 5th spot. After that, Quinnipiac's in that 6th spot right now as we speak. So I think if they can go 11-9, finish 4-2 in the last 6 games, and 6-2 in their last 8 games, get to 11-9 and get that final bye spot. You look at MAC history, 11 wins usually gets you that bye.
I definitely agree. I think if you do get to the 11 wins, it puts you, it gives you a chance to get into that top 5, but I think a lot, Brian, depends on Thursday night. And here's why. Because a win, then they have their 8th win, and you look at their last 5 games. I like Quinnipiac to win the Ryder, Fairfield, and Marist game, so yes, that would be 11. But here's the tiebreaker issue. The tiebreaker is, after head-to-head, best record versus highest seeded remaining teams in descending order. So for that instance, here's where it comes down to. So if Quinnipiac is tied with a team, let's say, they go to, okay, team A, let's say, is Quinnipiac, and team B is another team. They say, how did those 2 teams fare against Monmouth? Because they're going to be at the top. They're going to win the regular season. If both teams got swept, they move to the next. Okay, so you're following me here? Yep. So Quinnipiac's best win is Fairfield, who currently sits below them. All the teams above them, Quinnipiac has not swept. It has split against Canisius. It has gotten swept by Siena. And St. Peter's on Thursday night, they need to win that game in order to get a bye. If they lose that game Thursday, they will not get a bye because the best they can do against St. Peter's is split. And the only 2 teams that they can sweep are Fairfield and Ryder, who have a shot at making the top 5. So I definitely think Thursday night is big. You need to win Thursday because if you lose Thursday against St. Peter's, you go to a bandbox down in Lawrenceville, New Jersey to face the Ryder Broncs.
But we're talking tiebreakers here. So I mean, if they're 11-9 and they could be the 5th place, and the 6th place team could be 10-8, and there's no tiebreaker. They just get that 5th spot, correct?
Correct. No. So
Right.
other
So that could
teams.
still happen.
So other teams such as Ryder, who could be in the mix because they still have Ryder twice, and a team like Siena, who's in the mix, they have 2 wins against Iona, like Quinnipiac, and Ryder has a win against Monmouth, and St. Peter's has a win against Monmouth. So right there, those 2 teams, when you go to that tiebreaker up top, has Quinnipiac beaten a Monmouth and Iona? You go down the list, those 2 have beaten Monmouth, bang, Quinnipiac's out right there. So I think they need 12 wins if they want to solidify themselves with a 5th place spot, and especially a win on Thursday night.
Well, okay, and I disagree, and I agree with that, but I disagree with the fact that they'll get 12. They're not going to get 12 wins. I think the best case scenario is 4-2.
I think they might get 12. I mean, hey, they could finish 3rd. They're 2
History
games out
says
of
that
3rd right now.
Quinnipiac probably won't get 12
History
wins.
says Tom Moore's really good in February outside of last year when he couldn't score more than 40 points a game.
He's really good except for that one time he wasn't there.
You know what else history says? 2 rookie point guards. Not too often that happens, and they're both really good. Who's more important to this team, Peter Kiss or Mikey Dixon?
Say good morning.
I definitely have to say Mikey Dixon. Mikey Dixon has only scored under 10 points in 3 games this year. He gets the offense going. Yes, Peter Kiss is great on the offensive glass, but Mikey Dixon gets everything going. A small guard can slice down the lane, can pull up from the free throw line, can hit the fadeaway jumper, can hang. He can really, at like 6'2", I want to say about 170, 175, he can draw the contact and remain in control and finish. I mean, that's tough for a freshman point guard that you're asking for to play 30, 35 minutes a game. So let's say he only plays 15 minutes a game. Okay, you could see that out of him. But when he's got to he's got to defend one of the best guards on the opposite side, a ton of seniors in this league, and he's got to score the ball and play 35 minutes a night, definitely the most important part of the team.
Quinnipiac started 0-4, and they went down to Disney for the Advocare. Who was the guy that hustled on every play, that produced on multiple occasions against Gonzaga and Seton Hall? Who was that guy?
I'm not saying that he's not
who
crucial.
was that guy?
I say
No.
Dixon has the edge.
But who was the guy that started? Who was the catalyst that got this team going?
Who averaged over 20 points for 2/3 of the season?
You're going to answer the question? Peter Kiss. Peter Kiss was the guy who balled out against
Did they win against Gonzaga?
No.
Did they win against Seton Hall? Okay, then. And then Mikey Dixon outscored him against Indiana State in the win. It matters about it's all about winning. It's about winning.
Let me ask you
At the end of the day, who's going to keep your job? The winners, not the losers.
Okay.
So Mikey Dixon has scored more points in games Quinnipiac has won than Peter Kiss has.
Wait. But you want to look at the last 8 games. Peter Kiss, 18 points per game, 8 rebounds per game. Okay, he's rebounding better than Mikey Dixon has. He's got better vision than Mikey Dixon does. He's got more passion. He's more poised. He dives for loose balls he has no business getting, nowhere near them. He hustles on every single play. He is clearly more valuable than Mikey Dixon, strictly because he's a little taller, he's a little wider, he can do multiple things. Because defenders are keying in on Mikey Dixon, that leaves Peter Kiss open. So that is the guy who is more valuable.
Go back to your point. When they're keying in on who?
Mikey Dixon.
Exactly.
Draws
the attention, and there's open wings on the side, and Peter Kiss can drive. I'm saying they're both great. They both should win the MAC Rookie of the Year.
After Advocare, who did Monmouth key on? Who did King Rice say they were really keying on? Who was
That's
Micah
the
Seymour
next
chirping?
game. We didn't have a good sample size then. We saw them play a Vermont team that absolutely destroyed them and has 20 wins right now and is undefeated in the American East.
Who balled against Gonzaga national television? Who balled against Seton Hall national television?
Did they win?
So what?
No, they didn't win.
So what? You're going to
Mikey Dixon has averaged over 20 points a game.
So when there are games that Mikey Dixon plays well, they didn't win. What are you talking about?
It's clear.
Don't act like Mikey Dixon plays well in every game and they win every game.
They're both
every
important.
Every time Kiss plays well, they just happen to lose.
Dixon can score a little bit better. He can score a little bit better.
How about who scored the game winner against Fairfield?
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Great point.
I agree with you. They're both very key
because
players.
they were riding on
Who's better defender? Who's the better defender?
They were riding that hand. They were riding.
You want to talk about how defense wins championships and defense is so important, but who was the better defender between the two?
I think Mikey Dixon.
Right now, it's time to take a break.
He just said he was 170 pounds
to see
soaking
what
wet.
happens.
Clearly, Peter Kiss is a better defender.
That doesn't mean he's not quick and can't beat a man to the spot on the
what
job.
happens.
Tyler Nelson had 30 points last night.
Say that again?
Tyler Nelson had 30 points last night.
And he didn't guard him.
Clinton Boyd.
No, he didn't.
We'll break out the
Were you
whiteboards
there?
and discuss
Listen.
the
Were you there?
latest on the Quinnipiac women's basketball team.
It's 9:30 Eastern, and you know what that means. Sports Pause is on the air.
Ball played up the middle. Iman Whalen with a little cheat off the play.
Preseason just boils down to going after another national championship and not necessarily focusing on the one before.
MJ, it is time for our favorite part of the show. It's the top 5 plays of the week, brought to you by B&D Deli, home of the Q-Dog.
Let's talk about the first play you want to break down.
Yeah, let's break it down right away.
But the one name I'm going to throw out there is a freshman, Mika Maples.
All this and more.
Coming up on the Q30 newscast.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. Hopefully these guys have settled down a little bit. It's time to play Pictionary. Well, sort of. Dylan and Maury will each answer one of my questions on their whiteboards and debate. We're talking Quinnipiac women's basketball, who lost to Fairfield, but won big at home against Monmouth this week. So guys, Down 1, Quinnipiac ball, final possession. Who gets the ball?
Home or away? Don't worry about it.
We know Jen Fay's the leading scorer, 10.3 points per game. She's shooting 47% on the season. You got Adelie Martucci, Paula Stroutmanet. Who's it going to be? Maury, you first. Dylan's got a lot to write right now. Let's see him. The hot hand or Adelie Martucci?
Martucci.
All right, I guess I'll start on this one. So when the Quinnipiac women's basketball team traveled down to New Rochelle, Brian, you were there as well as Shane Dennehy and Josh Silverman, the talented Q30 women's basketball B team. Trisha Fabry, I asked Trisha Fabry after the postgame and said, hey, look, your depth is great. You can roll a lot of players out there. You're always going to have fresh legs. You play great defense. You can run the floor. But when it comes down to it and you need a bucket, who do you go to? Because that can hurt. And she goes, you know, Maury, look, it's not always going to be one player. We're going to ride the hot hand, you know, in one game here and one game there. It's not always going to be Jen Fay. It's not always going to be Adelie Martucci. It's not always going to be Morgan Mans. I think it's the matchups are key, and I think it's who's having the hot hand that day. And I also think, you know, you can use that person as a decoy. So while you could think it is Adelie Martucci or Jen Fay if they're having 25 points, let's say, on a given night, you could use them as a decoy, and it could be Carly Fabry, Vanessa Udoji. You never know.
It's hard to disagree with that, obviously. I think the opposition is a factor as well. But I'm going to go with Adelie Martucci, the fifth year, the captain. She's been around for so long. I say, you know, she's second on the team in points per game. She's 88% from the free throw line. I say if you're down one and you got the ball, you know, let her go to work, try to get to the cup, get to the line and try to win the game or something like that. I think you got to put the ball in the person you trust the most. I think the person that Trish Fabry trusts the most on this team is probably her fifth-year senior, Adelie Martucci. It's hard to disagree with that, I'd say, right, Maury?
When they go ISO, they like Aaron McClure, but depends on the
McClure isn't
matchup.
shooting that well this season.
Depends on the matchup.
I wouldn't trust Aaron McClure.
Coming into the season, you would have thought it would have been Aaron McClure.
Right.
Now,
sure.
Could have been Stroutmanet. It could have been Martucci.
Jen Fay shooting 47%
Sure.
from the field. So there's a multitude of players, obviously, but I wouldn't go Aaron McClure, but I'd say Adelie Martucci, Jen Fay, a couple other players. But
all right, well, they have a multitude of players and options. Number 2, yes or no, is this a lost season if Quinnipiac does not win the MAC tournament? They lost to Iona last season in the MAC championship. They lose Martucci and Mans for next season. So
I honestly don't think we even need to put our whiteboards up for this one, but just because.
Yes,
Okay.
obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
This team has been to the conference championship for the last 4 seasons.
Yep.
They have a great coach. They have great talent, great players. They have seniority. They have young players. If they don't win, it's clearly a lost season. They expect to win the MAC championship every single season. Our senior year of high school, they won the NEC. Last year, they went to the MAC championship game, won once. If they do not win the MAC, it is clearly a failing season for this team.
They play a tough out-of-conference schedule, the likes of an at Dayton, Florida Gulf Coast, who's been to the second round of the NCAA tournament. You play a team like Temple. You play a team like Michigan State, who they got to come to Hamden. Then you go out to Vegas, you play the likes of Oregon State, New Mexico State, Long Beach State. You know, a ton of teams in the NCAA tournament, in the WNIT year in and year out. The out-of-conference schedule prepares them for those big 4 days in March.
Agreed.
All right, well, now it's time to discuss the game of the week. 3 basketball guys on the desk, so this one's right up our alley. The Quinnipiac men's basketball team hosts St. Peter's Thursday. The Bobcats come in at 7-7 in the conference, while the Peacocks are a game ahead of Quinnipiac at 8-6. So, who's it going to be?
I think Quinnipiac will win this game. I think the last time they played at the Anatelli Center in Jersey City, Peter Kiss and Mikey Dixon
Ryder.
No, St. Peter's.
No.
The last time they played at St. Peter's, which is the game of the week, Peter Kiss and Mikey Dixon both had off nights. They only had 54 points. I do not think that happens again the way both teams have been playing. St. Peter's is thin up front. So the fact that Donovan Smith and possibly Abdoulaye Bundu do not play will not affect them too much. They're very thin. They play 4 guards around Quadri Welton, their big man. I do not think those injuries will affect them. I do think Quinnipiac wins this game at home. And I think Peter Kiss and Mikey Dixon do not have off nights.
I think Quinnipiac wins a tight one. There's going to be about a foot of snow on the ground, so everybody at York Hill better come out and support this team because they are opening eyes and they are showing that they have the 2 best freshmen, maybe not even in just the MAC, maybe in some of mid-major basketball.
So we have 2 votes for Quinnipiac.
Sure.
It'll be interesting to see what happens on Thursday night. All right, well, that's all the time we have. Be sure to check out all of our great content on Q30television.com and at theqbsn.com. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Q30Sports and at QBSN. For Dylan Fearon, Maury Hirsch-Gordon, and our entire crew, I'm Brian Schwartz signing off. We'll see you next time on Bobcat Breakdown.